I'm focused on his spirit cause it keeps me from his fire. The Holy Ghost is with me, so my fear I leave behind. My sins were all diminished when he took that breath and died. And if you think I'ma give up on my God, the devil is a lie. The devil is a lie. The devil is a lie.
Hello, welcome to Black Tea News. I'm your host, Christina Barr, and today we're going to be talking about this scandal, I guess, with Chip and Joanna Gaines. And they came out with a new television show, or they're coming out with a new television show that's going to be on Max. And there's a same-sex couple in it. The premise is that it's the 1880s or whatever, kind of like frontier, like can these modern families survive back in the day? And so they looked for a family that, I guess they've had out flyers that they were, looking for maybe gay couples and stuff. So a gay couple responded, and then they're on the show. And so some Christians are like, wait a second, I thought you guys were Christians. Like, what are you doing? So it's a lot of drama that's been going on, and their response to the backlash is interesting, basically saying, you guys are so judgmental, so and so, and folks are like, wait a second, just go read your Bible. So I have a hot take. I guess it's not that hot, but it might be like one of the spiciest ones from the take that I'm going to pursue, I guess, as my response to this. Also, Lauren Southern, if you recall Lauren Southern, she's been quote unquote kind of retired for a minute. She got back in conservative media a bit and then dipped out again. But she's coming out with a tell-all book, and she released some chapters last night on her Substack, accusing Andrew Tate of raping her. So I saw it last night. I read it this morning, and my plan was to read through the whole thing, with you guys. I don't think I'll have time to do that, so I'll probably summarize, and maybe I'll make a separate video on that. I mean, it's worth reading, I think. But she released those particular chapters because she said she didn't really want to profit off of those sections. She just wanted to be like available, and she's willing to help and like, I guess, bring him down and all these other accusations that have been going on against him. But it's her account of things that happened. I think her story sounds believable, especially given all that's kind of happened. So, and all the allegations and things that he's said about himself as well. So before we jump in everything, I want to encourage you guys, go blackteenies.com, check out different content, the website, articles, videos, etc. If you like what I do, please consider leaving a donation on the website, because it does cost a stream, run the site, all that good stuff. So you guys can support. I very much do appreciate it. And you gotta give me 1 second, because I gotta grab one thing that's like across the room. So I'm gonna just put it on a backdrop of a thing, and I'll be right back. Okay, I'm so sorry. So I've been absent the past 2 days because I just was sick. On Sunday I had a terrible sinus headache, and like just felt like pain from like up here to my eye and stuff. And so I went home, and I got this like eye heat thing that I put on my face. And then I felt my nose kind of starting to drain. And then when I woke up in the morning, totally stuffed in my nose, and just, I don't want to get gross, but just, I had to like grab tissue in case I'm not like free flowing like things from my nose like I was past 2 days. I just didn't want to be We've done this thing before when I've gone on air and I was continuously wiping. I haven't had an issue today. You can still probably hear it in my voice a bit. And I did a quick TikTok yesterday and I look dead. I look dead. um, I look terrible. So anyway, I decided I was going to go ahead and that I was well enough to go ahead and try things. That's another reason why I'm not going to probably read through a whole entire like long, like 4 chapters from Lauren's book, because I don't know if continuously talking throughout the hour will like start really straining my voice. So I might make just a separate video with more in-depth stuff, like just kind of going through the whole thing. But I do want to talk about it. I definitely want to talk about it. But this Chip Joanna Gaines thing has been going on for days. So I just want an explanation of where I've been. I've just been ill. So sorry. Sorry. I hope you guys had a good weekend. I usually come back from the weekend and say, hey, did you guys have fun? Friday, I wasn't here, or Thursday, I wasn't here. I guess because I was helping with the Salute Our Warriors, Salute Our Warriors, which is a fundraiser for the Fallen and Wounded Soldiers Fund. It was a great event. And my brother was one of the donors. Like, he donated his cheesecakes and people loved his cheesecakes. He got such great feedback from people. Like, some of it was like inappropriate. Like, so it was like, start eating his dark chocolate one. Not dark, it's milk chocolate. Actually, it's not dark chocolate. He calls it the kiss of death. And he started making a face. And I had told him my brother was a pastor. And he's like, I want to say something. And I'm like, is it not appropriate to tell a pastor? And he's like, I'm pretty sure pastors know about sex. And I was, my brother's unmarried, so I mean, he would know about it, but he's not. He's a virgin. Anyway, no shame in that. He's, Christians. If you're raised in the church, you ought to be. But he's the guy. He said is better than sex. Which I've seen a lot of people have reactions that were not PG-13 when they've eaten that cheesecake. It's darn good cheesecake. And other people like ate it who he had different flavors, but his kiss of death was definitely the thing that was gone the fastest, where people came back and got extras, and people who said they're not even into chocolate that much, they said it was a 10 out of 10. And someone like took some of his raspberry and was like, what do you put in it, crack? So he had great feedback. So hopefully we did it for a good cause, but hopefully that some people talked about doing different jobs and stuff, catering. So I my prayer is that it launches good things for him. I wish he had like an operation right now where people could just like buy things from all over the country, so you guys could like order it and other things like that. But if you're local, in Michigan, he does make cheesecakes. He sells cheesecakes. And they were these tiny little squares, so they were like perfect bite-sized things that really worked. So we had it was good for him. It was a good turnout. I don't know how much money was raised, but it was a good night. I left a little early because I was trying to get to the end of church because they wanted me to sing a song. I ended up missing it. The thing ran later because it was raining and people were flying in with a helicopter. It's still a huge spectacle, great event. And I got some things I need to finish editing for the event. But I had a good weekend. So little up-to-date thing about my life and what has been going on. Plus, I just sent out my my proof copy for Bigger, my children's book. That should be here Saturday. So by the time you see me on Monday, I should have a proof book that maybe I can show you guys a little bit. And hopefully it looks good. Or looked good digitally. So hopefully it looks good when I get the physical. But lots of things going on. Anyway, let's get to the drama. Let's get to the tea. Let's get to the news. You're here because of the headlines and so on. So let's talk about Chip and Joanna and stuff. So Chip and Joanna Gaines, they are, Christian, folks who've been on like HGTV and stuff, and they do like renovations and other things like that. HGTV was like my mom's network. She liked her killing channels, like murders and stuff. A lot of women apparently do like watching that kind of stuff. My mom liked horror. She liked, stuff about killing folks, mysteries and things, buried underneath the backyard. She watched stuff like that. And she would watch HGTV. She'd see different houses, like, the show where they show different 3 listings and like, am I going to buy this? Am I going to buy that? She didn't like Chip and Joanna too much though, because she didn't like their style. So she didn't really watch them too much. I never came over her house and they were sitting down watching Chip and Joanna. It wasn't really her thing. But they're popular. And so anyway, they have a new show that's coming out on HBO Max, and I think they're changing the name back to HBO Max and not just Max anymore. But about these couples who go out on the frontier, who are modern families, who, can they survive, in an 1880s sort of landscape. And so they drew some outrage because one of the couples that they decided to have on their show was a same-sex couple, and they also have a set of twins who were born via surrogacy. Now, I saw a lot of articles that said that they are born via surrogacy. I didn't realize that, I guess these people were so online or whatever. I just wanted to make sure before I said my take that was the case. I saw it reported a couple of different places. And I watched Ben Shapiro talk about it not too long ago. That was on his show today. And he said that the kids were adopted. I'm like, I don't think that's correct. But there's a big difference here between the surrogacy thing and the adoption thing. So I just got done reading an article that talked about how they actually had their process. They got the surrogacy thing together before they got married. Like they wanted to make sure that they had that. I guess by the time everything started setting in motion, that they got the donor and the surrogate or whatever together, they wanted to be married. So they couldn't. And this was at a time when you couldn't get married in Texas. So they went to, I think they couldn't get married in Texas. So I think they went to DC or whatever. I didn't read the whole article. I just was trying to get the information that I needed and skim through it. So yeah, they did have their children via surrogacy. And so I think there's some ethical issues with surrogacy, but particularly for this, yeah, big red flags for obvious reasons. But anyway, people were really upset with Chip and Joanna Gaines. So people started saying things like, hey, this isn't good. This is, showing this, representing this. And so Chip, instead of being quiet and just kind of like taking it on the chin, he had some comments on Twitter that some folks weren't too happy about. Right? So, not going too hard, but saying talk, ask questions, listen, maybe even learn. Too much to ask of modern American Christian culture. Judge first, understand later / never. And why is this just like American Christian culture? You think if you went to like Africa, they'd be like, oh yeah, let's put 2 dudes on a TV show and surrogacy through babies through surrogacy. You think that would be like okay in Nigeria, where Christians, being a Christian can like get you killed, or in the Middle East? You think it's just like the American Christians that are just would have an issue with this? I judge first and understand later / never. It's a sad Sunday when non-believers, quote unquote, have never been confronted with hate or vitriol until they are introduced to modern American Christian. What kind of person in the world, especially a grown adult, hasn't been introduced to some kind of hate or vitriol until they meet a Christian? That is so reaching. That is really reaching. In this world where they teach you about microaggressions and the patriarchy and the oppression Olympics or whatever, unless you're just convinced that every sort of hate is centered around Christianity, which many folks on the left will we'll try to make that case sometimes. So it's I guess it's not as subtle as I originally said. It's a pretty bold, ignorant take, I think, from Chip. So people had responses to that, which Katie Faust said, "You put a gay couple on the flyer to recruit for the show. They intended to normalize motherless homes via their participation. The Christian response to child victimization isn't listen and learn. It's rise and protect. You're in the millstone territory." So we'll watch that video because they explain how they were recruited for the show. Matt Walsh said, maybe you should endeavor to understand the basic moral teachings of your own alleged religion before you give lectures to other people about their lack of understanding. Joel Berry from the Babylon Bee said, you'll see no hate from me. I'm just sad. I can't let my kids watch your show now, since I'm trying to protect their eyes and hearts from the lies of the world, lies you're now participating in. Also, filter out some of the online vitriol and consider taking to heart some of the substantive concerns and the heartbreak from the Christians who make up your fan base. We should love the sinner. That doesn't mean we celebrate and promote the sin and participate in the multi-billion-dollar industry dedicated to destroying the family. And Chip said, don't be sad, Joel. Plenty of other stuff out there. I'm sure everyone will be fine. That is such a trash response at first. I mean, he follows up this with this other line. But I sincerely appreciate the advice about taking some of the thoughtful, heartfelt, encouraging, constructive criticism to heart, and I certainly will. You could have left out the top part if you meant that. Like, sometimes you see a TikTok of someone like writing stuff, and then there's like angel or God like looking, and they're like, okay, delete, delete, delete. He should have deleted that top part if he felt that way. Okay, he should have deleted that top. Oh, what did Dana say under it? Please, this also filter out some of the online vitriol. Consider taking to heart some of the substantive concerns and the heartbreak from the Christians who make. Oh, she just reiterated the Joel stuff. Yeah, there's people who are sincerely upset and not responding like online trolls or whatever, who are sincerely just like, what are you doing? I think Joel responded to that too. Maybe he didn't. I thought he did. So anyway, people are upset. People are responding, and I don't think he's handling this all well. But to the point of the creating the fatherless homes, there was an interview where they talked about that they want to normalize same-sex couples. They want their family to be seen as a modern family that is normalized. So that's their goal. If you're a Christian, you're supposed to evangelize the gospel, and these men want to evangelize their sin. That's what they say. Not in so many words, but it is what it is.
How did you hear about this opportunity? Who was more invested from the jump? Who took more convincing? I want to know that whole story.
When I first saw the flyer on social media, there was a gay couple on the flyer. And so that initially kind of sparked my interest, and I was very much intrigued in learning more about the show and kind of what that experience was going to be.
So if there was a casting thing, like looking for couples, and you don't just have couples that can produce children, you have same-sex couples, you're letting them know, like, you're looking for all sorts of, you're looking for that demographic to participate. So it's not like, oh, we met this couple and they were just so fantastic that we just had to make an exception. They were the producers or whoever, and it's Chip and Joanna's show. I mean, I don't know how much they control their show, but they put their foot down and say, now we can't have that. But they were actively looking for this or encouraging it. So is what it is.
I'm super honored that that when they were choosing 3 modern day families, that they did choose a same-sex couple as a modern day family because we are, and like we are your neighbors and your coworkers. And so it was this great, amazing opportunity to normalize same-sex couples and same-sex families.
I didn't want to do it. To
No.
I was like, what are we doing? Why would we put ourselves in this situation to really rough it? That's not we love our modern conveniences. I was on board with the whole concept of continuing to normalize same-sex families. I think through our Instagram, through our $2 Dads account, that's one of the reasons we put ourselves out there, because of our adoption issues and feeling the need that other families have other struggles still in other states. So it was just important for us to continue to spread that message.
Have either of you done anything like this before? Are you campers?
We've never gone camping. We've never been camping. We don't camp in the backyard. Like,
no, not even that.
Right. Not really our cup of tea.
We went glamping, but that's the extent of it.
So they, obviously they were looking for the possibility of a gay couple. And, just in general, a lot of like Hollywood and TV shows and stuff, they seem to like really, really want to over-represent the LGBT community. There's a show on Fox that I really like. And I don't know why the show is so invigorating. Maybe it's the fast pace and kind of the ease that it is to play along with it. But it's called The Floor. And Rob Lowe is the host. And there's all these people on a floor, and they all have the different lights the floor will light up. And if it lights up, like, you're picked by the randomizer to go up and you find an opponent, and they show you images, and you have to say what the image is. Like, it just goes back and forth in like a duel. And if there's a category you're familiar with, you're like at home, shouting the stuff. It's a very fun show to watch. But the amount of like homosexuals on the game, I'm like, this is like, where are they getting this talent pool from? Why are there so many? This is not representative of the population of the United States of America. Like, it's just incredible. Like the amount. So it's just interesting. Again, how oversaturated, how overrepresentative the LGBT community is, or that pushes in Hollywood to make it so. So anyway, they told you the goal is they're there. They want to normalize, same-sex couples. And as a Christian, you can have, compassion for folks, but that you should not want that normalized, especially. And here's my spicy take: the fact that they have their children via surrogacy. And I think there's some ethical issues, which I've mentioned in the past, with surrogacy. But I can understand couples who are having fertility issues, who want to have children, who've been trying for a while, and they've exhausted themselves as far as, other methods and so on. And they want to go the route of in vitro fertilization. I understand that. I still have some concerns with that. But I get that. But I deeply disagree with people who design motherless and fatherless lives for their children. I deeply disagree. I would go as far to say I think it's evil. I'm not saying that these men don't love the children that they care for. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying the kids don't have a happy life. I'm not saying that they're not being raised decently or whatever, not to the fullness that they should be, I suppose. But what these men did to create these children was evil. And I know those are strong words, but every child has a mother and they have a father. And not every child has a good mother, has a good father. I mean, whoever this person's mother is sold their eggs or whatever, gave them away, or sold them, whatever. And then the other woman harbored them, and then you just used her body as an incubator, and poof, here you go, here are your kids. And they were in that womb for the 9 months and then had the separation. And we're giving, to these men. I don't know which one is maybe someone is, I don't know if each kid is each one's, or if one of them is the father of both. I don't know those dynamics. But I don't believe it's right, again, to design a motherless or a fatherless life for a child. There are times when that obviously happens. Your parent could die, accident, illness, so on. Sometimes your dad is trash and they abandon you, or the mother's trash and she abandons the kid. Maybe they're just not fit to be a parent, and you are better off being adopted, if they can't get their lives together or whatnot. There are situations where the ideal doesn't happen. It's not even just ideal. It's how it should happen. That's the natural sort of order. But sometimes that is not the path for the child. But we're talking about purposely designing it, dreaming of one day having a family and subverting it in this kind of way. If you don't think it's evil, or if you don't think there's anything wrong with it, explain to me what is so insignificant about a mother that you think it was okay that these two men did this. And you argue that, they did these things and these kids exist. I'm not saying that these kids are evil. Every child is a gift from God, That doesn't mean that every way that a child comes into the world is moral. Like, a child conceived through sexual assault is still a child that's made in the image of God, who deserves all the love and respect in the world. But that doesn't mean that how they were created was right and should be replicated, okay? So just because bad things happen doesn't mean that they should keep happening, and that life at any cost is a good thing. That is not anything I preach, and that is not anything that the pro-life movement has recommended either. I think some people are trying to maybe go that route, as like Trump and other folks talk about, IVF and stuff. But life at any cost is not by any means necessary, is not what we should push. So explain to me why mothers are so insignificant that it was a good thing that they designed a life of motherlessness for their children, for their sons, or vice versa. If it was two women. Why are fathers so insignificant? I don't think the data bears that out, by the way. That fathers are so insignificant that it would be okay if two women did this, or if it was a single woman. I don't like broads getting artificially inseminated, going to the sperm bank and stuff, doing that either. I don't like that either. I've heard so much heartbreak from women who don't have fathers. I just would not purposely design a child's life like that just because you want a child so badly. And I understand that that's something that's, I think, inherent to our nature, that we want to be fruitful and multiply, that we want to have our own families and stuff. But God made male and female to do that. Right? Every child has a mother and has a father, and these men decided to rob a child of their experience with their mother for their own needs, for their own wants, for their own desires. And I'm not saying they don't love their boys, but I think what they did to their boys to bring them about, to fulfill their desires, is evil and wrong. And I don't think that should be normalized. I think it shouldn't be legal, frankly. So I super don't appreciate what Chip and Joanna have done. I don't. And I don't appreciate their snippy attitude either when people push back against them. There's people offering genuine criticism in a compassionate way, maybe just stating the word, but like being super open-minded and non-judgmental and stuff, like that's... I saw somebody talk about this earlier, like, well, Jesus said not to judge. I'm like, Jesus didn't say that. He said, judge not, lest you be judged. But that chapter is that literally teaching about how you judge properly. It's like what measure you use against someone else could be used against you. So you just got to make sure that your life is in order. And don't be judging people too harshly when you got your own sort of issues that you could be dealing with. It doesn't mean that you can't judge somebody else, but it just means, I saw somebody reference that scripture today, and they were talking about the difference between social kind of justice and it was so good. It was actually a passage about reanalyzing the civil rights movement and how MLK was actually like spouting some communist sort of things, and how the civil rights movement is steeped a lot in communism, which I know makes sense because there's a book called Color, Communism, Common Sense, where a black man who was like recruited, by the communists, he like spilled the tea, and so the communists would recruit black people with legitimate like concerns about racism and stuff, but their goals were always to push communism, not really to advance black people, but they were just using legitimate concern that people were having to radicalize people into supporting communism. So Chad O. Jackson has been on this for a while. That's the guy he's like making a film about MLK and the civil rights movement. I think it's called it's a docuseries called the MLK Project. And so he talked about how he did an interview with Jason Whitlock. I haven't watched that yet. I'll have to do that and report back to you guys. But then a pastor had messaged him about some of the stuff that he said, and so he called the pastor and they had a conversation. So this post, I reposted it, I retweeted it. So if you follow me on Twitter, you can find this post. He talked about their conversation that they had, and it was really, really interesting. But give me 1 second. There's such a good line that I retweeted it. That's why I retweeted this part of the post. Oh, he said, "Well, Reformation." Let me start here. Another important note on the kind of Reformation on which I am in favor is that it is decentralized, thus owning its own success. Because after he like laid out like there's all this communism around the civil rights movement, he's like, well, what was our alternative? And so he found that to be a sad kind of question. Like, you don't need, like, there were other churches and business owners and other stuff like advancing the cause. You didn't need to get like the white man involved necessarily, or whatever. But this is kind of where it comes in. Another important note on the kind of Reformation of which I am in favor is that it is decentralized, thus owning its success to no president, politician, or activist, its lifeblood, and not pumped by a specific legislative policy whose repealing would cause the masses to suddenly forget how to behave. While Reformation asks each individual to remove the plank from his own eye, Revolution encourages everyone to become an expert on the splinter in their neighbor's eye, or at least the eyes of the specific group whom the activist identifies as the enemy. And I just thought that was so good. Like we keep having this conversation about like the gospel versus social justice and how the gospel holds everyone accountable. So this was what Jesus was trying to do, to teach people, how to properly judge, not to say that you like you're not allowed to do it. It's just we have to make judgment calls all the time. In life, there's a book called Judges, by the way. Just be like, you can't judge ever. It doesn't make any sense. Like we're taught like how to properly discern. Jesus said, "You'll know them by their fruits," and other like we're taught how to do it. To properly discern stuff. Now, can you judge see into their heart the way that Jesus can? No. Do you know, like, someone's like really Final Destination or something? I guess you could hypothesize, but can you really know? No, like, you're not the ultimate judge, but can you judge whether something or not is a sin? I mean, you can just go to the Word to figure that out. I don't have to judge whether, a man sleeping with a man or a woman sleeping with a woman, or just other sexual, things like adultery and so on are sinful, you can just go to the Bible. You can disagree with that, but it is what it is. Like, you don't be, it is what it is. it just is what it is. So I do agree that there are people who are really judgmental. Like, I was having a conversation with my sister earlier today about it was a topic about pro-lifers and how sometimes I'll watch different debates and they'll say on there like no anecdotes. And I understand why they don't want any anecdotes, because they don't want people to get distracted and go down the rabbit hole. Like, they want to like cut to the root of why they support or don't support it. And two, if you bring in anecdotes and people start talking about their personal experiences, why they just did this, why they did that, if you start critiquing those circumstances, like, well, you really didn't need to do it to go to college. You could have did this, you could have did that. People feel like, I mean, that they're just really being attacked because they put their life under a microscope for the live to just kind of dissect. And they just take it so personal as it doesn't really go to a good place. But I said, I think that people should kind of maybe rethink that, because a lot of these folks that are talking this stuff out, there are a lot of women who will support abortion because they've had one or they know someone who's had one, and they have a lot of emotional weight into the topic, and they need kind of someone to talk to. And maybe you could say like, well, what you did was wrong, but there is forgiveness for you, you know. Just as Jesus Christ died on the cross for my sins, he died on the died on the cross for your sins as well. And there's forgiveness, and you can repent and find forgiveness in that. And maybe they'll accept it, maybe they won't accept it, but maybe planting that seed is still worth it. And I brought up this story about how there's this one state legislator, I can't think of his name off the top of my head, but he told a story about how he was debating someone, and I can't remember exactly what the debate was. And someone was like, okay, well, what if someone died, and would this person go to hell, or would they not go to hell, or whatever? And he's like, that's not part of the conversation. That's not part of the conversation. And he went on with his debate and like owned them or whatever, or felt that he owned them. And then someone, you know, who was listening was like, do you know why they asked that question? And he's like, why? And he's like, because his wife just died. And then he felt like a jerk because this person had a sincere question. And he's just like, oh, I'm going to own you in the debate. And you can win the debate, but your goal isn't to just win a debate. You know, it's to lead people to Christ. So whether you plant that seed for someone else to water, or you can, you know, in your conversation with the altar call, I don't know, but it's not just to be a debate me bro. That's not what we're supposed to be. So I do think a lot of our culture, our Christian culture, is a little too online. I think we are a little too quick to react. And so I don't disagree with his statement that sometimes people are too quick to talk instead of ask questions and listen and so on. But I would still say that he's in error, and he's the one who's like mouthing off too quickly and stuff. Like what his response to Joel, when Joel's like, I'm not going to be able to watch this with my kids. He's like, well, they'll find something else. Is that a way to talk to your supporters and your fans and stuff? You know, I don't think so. Especially when he had like the portion that said, you know, just there are people who are sincerely trying to respond. And so maybe like think about how you're responding. And he still wanted to quip at him. So I think the issue obviously is Chip here. So it is what it is, I guess. They're putting out their show. I don't want this normalized. And by the way, that was always the goal. Back when you know, gay marriage in California was struck down and stuff, where there's the debate about Prop 8, they were saying the campaign that was like, I think the yes campaign was like yes for the ban. And they were saying if gay marriage is legal in California, they're going to teach it to your kids in school. In the pro-gay marriage side was like, no, that's crazy. We're not going to teach it in school. What? And fast forward, you know, we just had a Supreme Court case, where parents in the had to go all the way to the Supreme Court because they didn't want books being taught to their kids about LGBT stuff, and they wanted to at least opt out. They weren't saying, I guess you can't show it. They're saying we want the opt out option, and the school was saying no, there's too many parents opting out. So they were like, we have your kids, they're here, we're gonna make them read this, and you can't stop us. So these parents had to defend their parental rights to protect their kids as they saw fit. They had to take their grievances all the way up to the Supreme Court. That's way different than where we were back in the day, where they're like, we just want to be able to do what we want in your bedroom. It has nothing to do with you. It has everything to do with everybody now, because it's about acceptance, and even when people would talk about the lawsuits saying you have to bake the cake or you have to do the flowers for the wedding and all that stuff, I would see different comments as like, because there's one story about a woman who had a flower shop and she sold flowers to a gay couple, and they asked her, like, would you do the arrangements for our wedding? And so she's like, well, I can't do that because I'm a Christian. And then they turned around and they sued her. And so I remember reading like the comments on YouTube, and someone was like, well, they were tolerant of them, but they weren't really accepting. That's really the problem. It's like, so you're going to make people accept you with the threat of the government? That's where we are. I don't think that's right. I don't think that's right. I mean, the I guess more civil way to do that would be through entertainment, which they've been doing for years. And so this is a continuation of that. They're saying they want it to be normalized, but when you have dreams of always making a family and you have to make that through beakers and so on, I don't really think that is normal, especially if it's not because one of you are infertile. It's because you are not designed to be two fathers. That's not how you were designed. So I guess that's all I got to say on that for right now. But yeah, Chip. George Alexopoulos had said, pointing out sin and refusing to celebrate and normalize it isn't vitriolic, sir. Christians are expecting to separate themselves from sinful lifestyles, not to be cruel, but for their own well-being and to set an example. When people talk about what is love, it's patient and it's kind, and it doesn't rejoice in wrongdoing. And I've had to have this conversation quite a bit online, but to just affirm people when they are doing something that can lead them into hell. Like you could coddle them, well, you're like guiding the babies, like, come on, baby, come on. But there's a cliff that they're walking right over. So, and the cliff is the gates of hell. Like, so you can do that and think that you're being so sweet and so kind, but what you're doing is cruel. What you're doing is evil. And you can disagree with that, but you're disagreeing with God, I guess. And if if you think you can outlove him and outthink him and decide what is and what isn't sin, we're not the problem, it's you. So you're arguing with your Christian audience, and it's just not right. Like Ben Shapiro said, if this was just secular people doing secular things, it wouldn't be that. I mean, there'd be people still maybe saying stuff, but it wouldn't be this kind of backlash, would be this kind of backlash. Like maybe I'd be mentioning it because in vitro fertilization babies or whatever, but probably wouldn't have been a topic of conversation, especially with all the news that's out today. Anyway, we'll move on. Thank you to Anna and other folks saying that they wish that I hope I feel better soon. I don't know what it is about. Does everyone else get like winter and summer colds? I'm good for getting a summer cold and a winter cold. Usually, like, I feel like I have more than 2 a year or whatever, but I'm at least getting 2 a year. One's going to be in the winter, one's going to be in the summer. So I feel like you guys have been with me through a lot of different colds, but I guess I've been doing this for a while. So it's not as bad. Like the last one I had was really bad. Like I felt it all in my chest. Like it was, I think it was, I came back from a trip somewhere. I think it was when I came back from DC, from the White House. So that I think the last time I was pretty sick was February. I think Black History Month thing. And I was I guess it did start off with me having a sinus thing, but I was really had like a cold, I think on top of that. And it was like difficult to kind of even breathe a little bit. I probably should have went to the doctor. I probably should have went to the doctor. And that was difficult. That one was hard one. But usually, just usually it's stuffy nose. My throat is a little funny, a little scratchy. It was a little sore yesterday. It's not really sore. It's still a little, I didn't want to read a long article today. I just didn't want to risk like hacking and coughing in front of you guys. But anyway, moving on. I want to talk about this Lauren Southern accusation about Andrew Tate. So Lauren Southern, if you're unfamiliar with her, back in the day, she was with Rebel Media, and that's like a Canadian conservative movement. And I first saw her when she was doing some like man on the street videos. I think that's how she really got her start or in fame. She was going to like these feminist marches and doing like the Amber Rose slut walk or whatever. She went there. I think that's where she met Milo Yiannopoulos, and they did a video together, and they were interviewing feminists. So her big shtick was feminism sucks. I'm the anti-feminist. And she did a lot of man on the street videos. Then she kind of branched off and did some other content, long form content, and other things like that. And so she got pretty big. She ended up doing a documentary called Borderlands and stuff. And I know it was a Borderlands or it was Farmlands or something. But she became the enemy of different countries. So it's like not allowed to travel in some of them. She's lived like a crazy life for such a short amount of time. And she like disappeared from the spotlight for a while, and I wondered why. And so there are accusations that came out from like Milo Yiannopoulos, and other folks saying that she was actually secretly a leftist the whole time, and she was a feminist the whole time, and she was just putting on a persona and all this other kind of stuff. And that appeared to not be true. It appeared to be just like a coordinated hit piece to delegitimize her, which people do that all the time. I mentioned that Color Communism and Common Sense book, how the communists would recruit different Black people to push communist ideas under the guise of like civil rights and so on. And they people up. So if they did go ahead and decide to leave the will of the communists, they could point to, oh, well, we set you up with this woman, or you did this thing or whatever, or maybe they admit something, but they try to set people up so they could delegitimize them easily, if they came out against them. So when she decided to retire, Paul Joseph Watson, and I used to watch them like stuff too, came out with a blog post saying like, oh, because she was I think barred from Australia or something, and her husband at the time wanted to go see family and stuff, and she was trying to get that kind of stuff in order, I guess. And so she was just gonna like quit everything, and he's claimed that, oh, why would someone just give up everything like that, for family, for friends, or whatever. Like, no, there's like, could it be that there's other allegations that are out there that are going to come out? So he did like a blog post about that. And then Milo posted his blog post claiming that she didn't really write her own material, that she was trading sex for ideas, which is weird because a lot of stuff that made her really famous was Men on the Street videos, and was just alleging like a lot of promiscuous kind of things from her and so on. And it was meant to silence her and, of course, ruin her reputation. But there was something that these folks didn't want to come out, that they needed to ruin her reputation so she wouldn't speak out on something that had happened to her. So the thing that she's alleging that she's putting out in a book, I don't think the book is out yet, but she did post these segments dealing with Andrew Tate on her Substack, and I read them this morning. She put them out last night, and it's just really sad. But she was, according to her, sexually assaulted by Andrew Tate. The book is, I think you can't buy it right now. Let me see. Paperback. It looks like it is available. Maybe just came out a few days ago. I'm not positive. She did put. Sorry, I saw the Wheel of Death for the loading screen sections on her Substack. So I read them today, and I wish I could read it all with you today, but again, my voice is kind of not up to that probably, and maybe I'll do that. But it's available. I did retweet it, so if you guys follow me on Twitter, or X rather, my account is at True Black Tea. And so she put these sections out there because she claimed she didn't want to profit off of this particular sections, and I guess she just wants information out there. And some people did know her story and decided to twist it and stuff. But long story short, in 2018, she went with Tony Robinson, and Toby Robinson like exposed some of the rape gangs and stuff in the UK. They were invited to come to Eastern Europe by some wealthy crypto investors. And she claimed that they were interested in sponsoring a larger media project that they could build together. So I guess she thought it was a good opportunity, was interesting, and she wanted to hear them out. So she just went with Tony Robinson. Now, I remember her being on Steven Crowder, her talk about some of the stuff that she was doing. And she's had like some negative comment videos on Steven Crowder and his divorce and the court records and other things like that. So I'm sure they're not mutuals or anything right now. And I don't know what he probably thinks about all this stuff. But I recall, this is when I was back watching Steven Crowder pretty religiously, I think. But she was a guest on a show, and she was just talking about some of the stuff that she was doing. And he's like, you need to be careful. Like, you know, you're like a young woman out there. Like, you need to be careful. And so Lauren, she doesn't write this story, at least in the sections that she has released, like she is a victim that everyone should feel like super bad for. She writes it saying like, I know I made you're probably reading this thinking, run, Lauren, run. Like, this is stupid. Like, why would you do that? Why would you make that mistake? She's 22. And that doesn't mean everybody who is 22 is stupid. I don't believe I was. I'm definitely wiser now than I was at 22. But, you know, but younger people, I don't know, they tend to do some dumb stuff, make some dumb decisions. And she definitely did. And she acknowledges some of the dumb things that she did and some of the red flags. So she decided to go ahead to Eastern Europe with Tony Robinson and somebody else. And apparently Tony Robinson, according to her, has a huge cocaine addiction. It was stuck cocaine, like on the airplane, was doing it on the plane and so on. She was said that TSA is a joke, a time wasting joke, because he was able to get so much cocaine with him. It was just high a lot of the time during their trip. So when they arrived, they ended up meeting the Tate brothers. And so the crypto investment thing wasn't real. And when they started pitching it to them, there was the Tate brothers and some, crypto nerd guy who was like pitching it. And so they were talking about, like, basically to her, it sounded like they wanted them to sell crypto stuff. And she wasn't really interested in that. She's like, okay, well, are you still going to like invest in this media company? They're just kind of like, oh yeah, we're still going to like invest in you guys and so on. And so after their meeting, she was like, okay, was that botched, or is there any way to save this or whatever? Miss Naive, like Lauren, not realizing the whole thing was kind of a scam or not what she wanted. Like there have been times when people approach me like they're going to invest in stuff, but they just want you to sell something, So then Tommy got like a text or something and said that, hey, you really impressed them, and they want to talk to you again. So she went to go meet them, and they're like, okay, well, this is kind of boring. Let's go hang out, at this club. And so she's like thinking to herself, okay, that's not a good idea. And so they're like, she's like, well, I don't really think I should go without the guys. I don't feel comfortable going without them. And so Andrew Tate is like, they're coming too. We're going to send cars for them. They're going to meet us there. So they did not send cars for them. And even when they were at the club, they kept saying things like, oh, they're on their way. Oh, the car's outside, and so on. Car never came. And so she ended up having a drink or two there. And so she got really intoxicated. It sounds like they drugged her. She doesn't say that, but it seems like she doesn't understand why she was so out of it. But she ended up being carried back to, I believe, a hotel and stuff. And she said she was tired, and he ended up kissing her. She kissed back a little bit and was like, I want to go to sleep and stuff. And so she told him no when he like kept coming on to her. And she does not go in like explicit detail about the thrusting and all that kind of stuff. She's like, I don't think I need to go into details. It's kind of obvious what happened, but she does say that he kept strangling her every time that she tried to fight back. And at first she tried to kind of downplay it, deny it a bit, but she did reach out to him and was like, that was really wrong. She told Tony and them about it. She told Andrew like what you did was wrong. And he's like, no, you wanted to cuddle and stuff. And she's like, I told you like again and again that I didn't want to do that, and you did it. You did that. And he said, well, why don't you go ahead and go to the police then? And if he was talking about the Romanian police, I guess he had already alluded that they were bought off and corrupt and weren't going to do anything. And one of the reasons why he went to Romania was so he could, do shady stuff that he couldn't do in the US and in UK and other places. So she did claim that she tried to go to the UK police, and she said something to the Canadian police, but all of them were like, you got to like handle that business in Romania. And she did say that she did go to the hospital, and they did confirm that, she had like asphyxiation and stuff. Which this all happened at a time that was prior to like, I guess his allegations criminally coming out about he likes to choke women and other things like that, which he's on tape talking about beating women, strangling women, and so on. So it's very strange to me that people deny a lot of things for his sake when he's on tape talking about a lot of stuff. And reading all this stuff with the knowledge that I have on tape is I don't know, really sickening. She didn't know all this stuff obviously at the time when she met him. And after she told Tony about it, they all started like Googling stuff later, and then found out that he was on Big Brother and was kicked off because he was beating a woman with a belt, who, by the way, was a minor. Vivian, his bottom B word, as he refers to her. And yeah, a lot of terrible things she alleged happened to her. And also the scam that lured them there was supposed to be, I guess the guy opened up to her at the club that it was like a pump and dump scheme, that they get people involved and they basically would take their money and leave and start off something else. So they planned to rip off folks. And according to her, I guess that's what a lot of folks do in a lot of the crypto stuff. I don't know. So it was always about using their influence to rip off people, and not about investing in some kind of legitimate like media company or whatever. So after all this stuff happened, she was silent about it for a long while. And Tate told her, you better not say anything about what happened, and so on. And so anyway, after she that was chapter 10, 11, I think maybe 12, and then it jumped to her retirement, and when she decided to, ease off and get away from the public life. And then all this stuff started coming out about her being a secret leftist, and this big smear campaign from like Milo and Paul Joseph Watson, that really, upset her and scared her. And she said there was a mutual contact that said that there was like a group chat that was like the war room for Andrew Tate, and a lot of these people who were spreading this kind of smear campaign against her were at his behest. So because she saw Milo's thing go out, and it just kept getting retweeted. She's like, how is this just like spreading like wildfire? Well, Andrew Tate, he does like recruit guys to I don't think for his Hustlers University, there's another thing that he has where he recruits like, oh, he like oh, I'll teach you how to do this and live this lifestyle or whatever. And he recruits people, and basically they're recruited to just amplify like Andrew Tate stuff. It's kind of like a bit of a Ponzi scheme sort of thing. So he just had people who were just like retweeting and amplifying the message over and over and over and over again to get it out there to ruin her reputation. So this day that ever came when she was going to speak out, that she really wouldn't have a voice. So that's, I guess, the gist of the at least these pages. And it's I don't understand like how so many influencers just allowed him to have so much power for so long. Like, how long has it been a long game for him to like get this wealth and amass it and all this? I just don't understand. Like when Benny Johnson had Andrew Tate on his show with Alina Habba, who's Trump's lawyer. And she's like, oh, I'm such a big fan of you. And they're like, well, people come after Trump and lie on him just like they're lying on Andrew. I'm like, do not compare this man to President Trump. You're just making Donald Trump seem less innocent, because this guy has a legitimate rap sheet and things he's on camera admitting to and stating. And he like has his cam business, and he's admittedly a pimp. So I'm like, why are these influencers doing this and damaging the president of the United States that they fought so hard to get elected? Why aren't they protecting him? Why are they compromising him like this? Like, what is it about this man? And I guess the most jarring thing about reading these chapters is the long game with Andrew Tate, because a lot of people haven't. I mean, I guess it's been a couple of years now, because he, like, for a lot of people, he exploded like during the pandemic time and stuff, and I guess that was 5 years ago. Gosh, time freaking flies. But he's been trying to get his foot in the door for a minute. So the chapters where it like actually happened in the aftermath are 10, 11, 12, and then her retirement chapter where all this other stuff starts coming out is like chapter 18. So those are the chapters that she have posted. Yeah, so she wanted to retire because she was trying to get back into Australia, and there was like a character test that she kept failing, so she was trying to like just cold turkey sort of quit so she could be allowed to go there, and they eventually, I guess, allowed it in the end. But that's why she was stepping away. But they made it seem like she was stepping away because of all this other stuff that was going to come out on her. Now, I don't know what else might be in the book, the tell-all that might be in there, any kind of behavior from her or other people. I imagine there's more things about Milo, because she did a tell-all video that said some stuff about him and Tony and other folks. But I'm concerned, like, how this long game stuff. Give me 1 second. I'm sorry. I just had to die off screen for a second. Ooh. That's why I figured I couldn't read the whole article to you guys. Ooh. Got that scratchiness. Oh, I'm so sorry. So anyway, you guys can read it for yourselves and judge. I do plan to read it and post a video about it some more. I have met Lauren before at the 2017 inauguration. Briefly. She too at the time did not have a voice because she was screaming, addressing protesters outside. She looked lovely though. It hurts me to know just so many things that she went through in the conservative media, and how gross a lot of these influencers are. It reminds me a lot about I know my voice is so jacked right now. A couple weeks ago we talked about Michael Tate from Newsboys. Originally he's from DC Talk, but he had apologized for his lifestyle, which included drugs and inappropriate touching and things like that. And when I read it and then went back and read the article about the allegations, I'm like, this apology is not good enough. Because his behavior was really predatory. And it had been going on a long time. But not just his behavior was bad, but the culture. Like, people say, like, oh, well, he was plying people with alcohol. But that's just kind of how people related to each other. Just drink. I'm like, okay, I know a lot of Christians drink. I'm not one of them, but, you know, a lot of people drink. But, like, everyone's said to be drunk, so what is this culture around the drinking? What? Like, why isn't this red flags and stuff? And people doing hard drugs and other stuff. Like, why? Why are people allowing this and fostering this? And just, you know, I understand maybe it's just music to some people, but You can make other music. You can go out there and just make secular stuff, but why like falsely represent yourself? People see it as a ministry, not just, you know, you going out there and playing some songs when you're not being an example and bringing a reproach upon the whole entire industry. And it's just ugly how corrupted it was, the industry. And Lauren, I guess, opened the door some time ago about the industry and how people are behind the scenes. Like, people talk about CPAC. Everybody knows. I don't know if everybody knows, but a lot of people know that CPAC is like, I don't know, a harem. Like, you go to CPAC, a lot of folks will go there to go sleep around with each other. I'm like, how you can have this big conservative gathering and there's all these young people going to go hook up? That's not how it should be. Not if you're pushing conservative values. I guess if you're just a part of edgelord culture or whatever, you know, and trad wife stuff is like, I don't know, a gimmick or a fetish. But if you really believe in family values and Christian values, that should not be what you're attracting. That should not be what you're promoting. You know, that should not be what's happening on those grounds. And then again, seeing so many people uplift Andrew Tate, you know, coddle him, give the softball interviews, cover for his crimes, lie about the allegations and the court records, like Candace Owens and, you know, Tucker Carlson, and or just giving him a platform to lie about stuff. It's just really sick. So I'm not terribly surprised by what I read. But my heart breaks for her. And again, I don't know how much all of it is true, but it sounds pretty credible. But I'll let you guys be the judge. I cannot continue. Ooh, it's good to be back, but I'm so sorry. I hate doing this when I'm sick and I'm not dying in front of you guys. I really thought I'd be okay. Nose was kind of stuffy, wasn't really runny. And again, I just thought I'd be okay for an hour. Silly me. Anyway, thank you guys for joining me today. Hope you enjoyed the show, minus the dying part. Please go blacktnews.com, check out different content on the website, articles, reviews, etc. If you like what I do, please consider leaving a donation on the website because this costs a stream, or the site, all the good so you guys get support. I very much do appreciate you guys. You guys can also check out different merch that's available on the website. Just go ahead and check that out. I still have different books like Slay Your Fear, How to Overcome a Spirit of Fear. It's one of my nonfiction books. My other nonfiction book is, of course, God is Blatantly Against Abortion. I encourage you guys to check that out, to read that, to get that. I also do have lots of fiction books you guys can check out. I have 18 books altogether online, and one of the children's chapter books I have is Super Kid. That's a good book. I have stuff for older readers. Ooh, just trying to get through this without dying. More news on Bigger very soon. I'm exhausted. My voice. God bless you guys. Hopefully I'll see you tomorrow. I do not know. God bless.